Again, thank you to all of our speakers. Next, ma'am, I ask you to please sit down. We have rules and we have a decorum. You sit or you will be escorted out. We have 10 speakers. That is our rule for our business meeting. This is not a public hearing. This is not a public hearing. We begin our action items with the first one, 4.01, Policy 1450, and I call on Mr. McElveen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the school board adopt Policy 1450, non-discrimination, as detailed in the agenda item.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Moon. I now call on Ms. Schultz. You have a motion. Oh. Mr. McElveen, I understand you don't want to speak at this time. All right. Ms. Schultz, you have a motion.
I move to postpone Policy 1450 until the second school board meeting in October 2015.
Again, I ask that this is a business meeting. I understand you're all here in support of one side or the other, but I do ask that you respect the fact that this is our business meeting. Ms. Schultz, please continue.
I move to postpone action on Policy 1450 until the second school board meeting in October 2015 so that the board can be provided the commensurate draft regulation and handbook language and determine the overall impact of the proposed revision to Policy 1450.
Is there a second to this motion? Ms. Schultz, you may speak on your motion.
Before the board tonight is a main motion which has generated more spontaneous public discourse and commentary than I believe in the history of Fairfax County Public Schools. The motion to defer or postpone that main motion is offered for substantive, critical issues which deserve the full due consideration and unanimous support of all of my colleagues. Whether a class of students with gender-related issues may hurt individuals in the bathroom is not the issue before this board tonight. It is about the right of 99.7% of all students, all teachers, and all employees to retain their right to privacy, safety, and dignity. How those rights of all students, all parents, and all employees are respected and protected has not been addressed by this board. We have no information on what safety and security issues exist now in FCPS's 194 school buildings, countless administrative buildings for all employees. And although I am a mother of 4 boys, I have deliberative concerns for your daughters, your granddaughters, your sisters, your aunts, your wives. Your wives and your mothers. Happy early Mother's Day, because after all, I am each one of those. In seeking information about what this policy may mean, and that was inordinately and surprisingly difficult, not because of the lack of ability on the part of a highly competent FCPS staff, but because of the lack of the very existence of the information I sought on your behalf, my significant concerns begin with our budget. Significantly in the face of an $8 million budget shortfall, which has not yet been resolved for fiscal 16, and facing a $100 million shortfall for fiscal 17, there is absolutely no information about the potential cost of outcropping of any of this policy decision, including staff development, facility modifications, staffing needs, and more. There are serious concerns about not having regulations and understanding impact for policymakers like the 12 of us sitting here who have to run the Fairfax County school system. If we do not understand germanely and with compassion how to respect every student, every employee, and most of all, every parent's rights who have entrusted us to educate your children. We have to delay this vote.
Mr. Stork, would you like to speak to your second?
I respect the right of all board members to make amendments and motions, and in that light, I was willing to second her motion, even though I will not be supporting this amendment.
Frankly, the process we've used to get to this point is troubling and embarrassing. I have so many fundamental questions that remain unanswered. Some answers were coming in as late as 2 and 3 o'clock this afternoon. If the board can't answer these questions, then a vote is clearly premature. Now, being the good analyst that I am going to take the time to identify what some of those questions are. Why is the board rushing to address this issue at this time? Why have we not followed our typical processes for policy development and implementation and public engagement, as outlined in our strategic governance manual? This issue was first raised at our forum on March the 12th, 2015. It was brought for new business April 23rd, and a vote is scheduled tonight, as you know, May 7th. We clearly have caught the public by surprise and not done justice to our established public engagement process.
Ms. Reed, please continue. Please continue, Ms. Reed.
And to prove that I have, in fact, read all these emails, I've also included some direct quotes from people. I won't use your name. But this adds flavor, and I think it's important to understand the comments that people are raising. Why has this not been publicized to parents? For a school system that is so good at keeping parents updated through email, Facebook, and other school resources, I was a little confused why I hadn't heard about this vote and why it was not publicized. I can only come to the conclusion that FCPS did not want the parents involved in the discussion. This week, our board has been pulled away from other important pressing business. We have not adequately honored our teachers during this Teacher Appreciation Week. Nor have we wrestled with how to honor our highest priority of employee compensation when we received $7.6 million less in our transfer request, let alone the $100 million plus shortfall projected for FY 2017. I have not heard about nor worked on closing achievement gaps or anything else that is a priority noted in our agendas or a strategic plan. Someone writes, I implore you to focus on the issues that are putting the reputation of our schools in jeopardy, such as budget shortfalls and less competitive teacher salaries. I would love to spend time working to improve these things in our schools rather than worrying about ad hoc policies that the board is trying to impose. Furthermore, to put this rush job in context, it took this board over 10 years of study to institute later high school start times. And near and dear to my heart, over 5 years to study whether to hire an independent school board auditor. It is safe to say that historically, this board rarely rushes into decisions. Question 2, do we have the legal authority to do this? The impetus to change and expand this policy was introduced by Attorney General Mark Herring in an opinion on March 4th, 2015. However, his opinion contradicts 8 other Virginia Attorney General opinions. These opinions all concluded that the Virginia General Assembly is the only body with authority to establish or change public policy to define classes for forbidden discrimination under Virginia law. Someone asks, have you considered the legal fees should you be sued for rashly following Mark Herring's opinion? I also asked the question, what interpretation does Fairfax County government take on this issue, and have not heard the answer to that. Other questions, and I apologize, colleagues, I warned you I was going to be lengthy. 3, is this change required, and by whom? What are the legal implications of not doing this versus the perceived threats of pulled funding? I won't cover that because Ms. Schultz did a very good job, and I'll spare you. Costs are another issue. This seems like it's an unfunded, I won't even say mandate, I don't know what it is. But what are the estimated costs to comply with this? And what exactly are we talking about? Nobody condones bullying or discrimination. And this... And this is not about some people mattering more than others. What kind of research have staff and the board done to get to this point? Have we done a literature search? Have we looked at case studies? Have there been community meetings and debates? Someone wrote, it is not even clear about what the board will be voting on, given no regulations have been written for review and consideration. It's like writing a blank check. Do you write blank checks in your personal life?
Title IX does already provide this type of protection. So for this postponement, it gives the
Ms.
impression.
McLaughlin, again, we are speaking to the motion to postpone right now. You may speak on this later.
I understand, Ms. Darnell-Kofax. My point is, I think that there's confusion in the audience in terms.
Yes, I know.
All right. I will just simply share this. What I do know in extensive conversations with our superintendent and with her leadership team, I do not believe we need to postpone, because it is not about any change in practice. I have heard how we handle it. The misinformation about the fear that this will change bathroom practices in locker rooms and safety of our children is simply not true. And
all right, the motion is the motion on the table to postpone was, I move to postpone action on policy 1450 until the second school board meeting in October 2015, so that the board can be provided the commensurate draft regulation and handbook language and determine the overall impact of the proposed revision to policy 14. We've had a vote, we've had comments, we've had seconds. We will now vote on this. All those in favor of the motion to postpone? Ms. Schultz and Ms. Reed. All those opposed? That will be Moon, McElveen, Hines, Smith, Darnett, Kofax, Velkov, McLaughlin, Stork, Strauss, and Evans. The motion fails. We are now back to the main motion.
Again, welcome to our house and our school system for a debate that is so incredibly important for the health and well-being.
Again, I am asking you one last time. I do have the ability to clear this room. If you would like to listen to what we are saying, then please listen respectfully. Please listen respectfully to what the board is discussing tonight at its business meeting.
excuse me.
This is about all of us, sir. I am a parent in this school as well as a representative.
Chairman,
this is about all of us.
Chairman Darnett Kofax, if you would appoint, can I have a point of personal privilege?
No, you may not, Ms. Schultz. We will give you one more chance. We will give you one more chance to try, and then we will take a 5-minute recess. Because then if we cannot conduct our business in the way we intend to, we will then have to clear the room.
I'm sorry, Chairman Darnett Kofax, with due respect, you must recognize me for a personal point of privilege.
Ms. Schultz, I will allow it. Yes, Ms. Schultz.
The truth is, we already do not discriminate based on gender identity in practice. Finally, and most importantly, as you've heard tonight, we are in fact being compelled to make this policy change by the Office of Civil Rights of the Department of Education, which has directed all school districts in the United States to amend their non-discrimination policies to include gender identity. In this light, amending this policy is non-negotiable unless we want the federal government to come after our federal funding. To conclude, I would like to speak about our role in history tonight. Many of you Many of you might not realize how the building in which we are gathered, Luther Jackson Middle School, relates to our discussion tonight. So let me explain. This school was named for the founder of the Negro Voters League of Virginia, and it served as the only black high school in Fairfax County. For years, black students had to be bused here, some taking hours to get here to receive their education. This year marks the 50th anniversary of desegregation of Fairfax County Public Schools. You might wonder why it took Fairfax County until 1965 to desegregate, more than a decade after Brown versus Board of Education, which declared state laws establishing separate public schools for black and white students to be unconstitutional. The leaders of our state organized massive resistance to desegregation and put us on the wrong side of history. Friends, 50 years later, we are fighting the same battles that our forebears fought. We are fighting the same battles that our forebears fought to provide equal access to our facilities for all of our students. The push for protections based on gender identity is the civil rights issue of our day. It is well past time for Fairfax County to be a leader on civil rights issues. Not delay this vote and relive our checkered past by putting ourselves at risk of legal action by the federal government, all while standing on the wrong side of history. And I am proud that 50 years from now, when a future board is debating the new civil rights issue of the day, right here in this room, our board will be remembered, not for postponing, not for delaying civil rights, but for protecting all of our employees and all of our children.
And I will tell you, the reason that I think we need to make sure that we make this statement as a board is that I think there are people, when I listen to some of the language that I've been reading in some of these emails, and this is not everyone, but there is fear of the other out there. There is fear of difference.
I have two email excerpts I wish to share, which are voices which are missing from the public engagement on this topic because there hasn't been any. The first is from an FCPS teacher. I do believe that it is FCPS's responsibility to make all students feel welcome and safe, but with that said, I do think we are responsible for all students and staff members within the school. Designating bathrooms for those students is without a doubt the right thing to do, but opening restrooms or locker rooms isn't the answer and it's not the point. If I'm misguided in what your intent is, which we haven't said, please let me know so I can inform all the other professionals in my building. Please note, I teach 2 students that consider themselves transgender or gender neutral. I have never spoken to either of them about which bathroom or locker room they use. They both approached me at the beginning of the year with an index card and said, please refrain from using male or female pronouns in class towards me. They prefer gender neutral terms. I am very conscientious as to what I say in class and how I say it, but I wonder what in this big world will it be like for these students when they are sheltered from the real world and, for lack of a better word, grocery stores, workplaces, and gyms. Please do not do this. The second voice is the voice of an FCPS parent. As a victim of severe adolescent age bullying that spanned several years and caused me to consider ending my life, I don't protest this measure lightly. I also generally think that the idea of a slippery slope is an overused and undersupported angle when people debate important issues. But in this case, this is truly a slippery slope. The truth is that people are bullied for many reasons, and students are bullied for many, many reasons. They're bullied for being poor, for rich, smart, having a low IQ, for the way they dress, for being too fat, too thin, too short, too tall, too awkward, for not dressing like everyone else, for the way they wear their hair, for the way they smell, for the way they speak, for the kind of cell phone they use, or for not having a cell phone. The list goes on and on. I once heard an LGBT advocate of the safe space posters that teachers are encouraged to put up in their classrooms say in response to this that I'm making, it's true. Most kids don't try to kill themselves because they're fat. How sad and absolutely not true. It demonstrates a shameful level of ignorance. The bottom line is that the school system cannot protect all children from all things all the time, and not from those that society generally looks down upon or doesn't understand. But they can and should enforce a safe and comfortable learning environment for all students in the most reasonable way possible and make accommodations just like these. The problem is, in passing this, as we heard earlier, if there was a task force already underway, why is this motion before the board, before staff finishes the work of its task force? If we are already treating students and employees well, and as the maker of the motion, Mr. McElveen said, this policy will do nothing, then why are we passing the policy before we know what's in it? One of the very often posed questions that has nothing to do with bathrooms, that has nothing to do with locker rooms, but is a very real and present concern for which I have no answer, is this: what effect does approving the language have on immediate operational and personnel implementation? E.g., for example, if a teacher comes to school next Monday dressed and identifying with the opposite gender and the language has been passed, then what? This is staff's answer. This is staff's answer. We will work with the teacher, HR, and division council on a plan for that teacher. The teacher would not be allowed to use the bathroom of their choice, and as a practical matter, nearly all faculty bathrooms in our schools are single-stall bathrooms, such that only one person at a time may use them. That doesn't address what happens in the front of the classroom and the rights of the parents to be engaged and to be heard.
As the father of 2 daughters, I have to tell you, the last thing that I worry about is the thought of one of them alone in a bathroom with a transgender woman. Next, parents will lose their right to move their child from a class taught by a transgender teacher. Actually, parents have no such right at all.
The motion before us is that I move that the school board adopt policy 1450, non-discrimination, as detailed in the agenda item. All those in favor? Moon, McElveen, Hines, Smith, Daranack, Koufax, Velkoff, McLaughlin, Stork, Strauss, and Evans. Opposed? Schultz. Abstentions? Reed. The motion passes.